Good evening, everybody.
Evening. What's the plan for tomorrow night?
I don't know. My wife said she'd like to make Charlotte and start delivering it around. It's a very big job. So everything Charlotte.
Too much for that. Far too much for that.
Yeah. Everything's quite busy. Good evening, Ian. How are you doing?
He's on mute. He's on mute. There you go.
How are you? You all right?
Yes. Well, all good.
You're going to be tuning tomorrow for Charlotte? You don't know. You'll see.
Hello.
Oh, well, the sound just told you. I can put them quite. Yes.
Oh.
How are you, Moshe? You okay?
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah. Well, grandmother was still alive, Baruch Hashem. She's 95. And she never used internet or computer. And she suddenly has major cheshek to get it. Problem is, because she's on lockdown, I can't really go into the house. She doesn't want anyone to go in the house. She wants me to teach it to her over the phone. As possible. I actually thought of you, Moshe, because I thought if anybody could do such a thing, maybe you could.
Yeah, I did it for my grandpa.
You did it for your grandfather?
Yeah, but I had to go in a couple of times with a mask.
It's impossible not to.
Yeah,
you set it all up for him, you put in Zoom, you get everything for him?
Yeah, I helped him out. Yeah, I gave him a tablet.
Was it? I mean, a different kind of computer.
Yeah, like an iPad.
And is he enjoying it?
Yeah, but he's always had a computer, so it's not so new for him.
Truth is, for people like that, the internet and these things is like a lifesaver, literally.
Yeah.
She's got a daughter now, it's a soul. She can't see anything. She have Zoom. Her daughter has Zoom. They should have Zoom. They could chat every day and talk to each other and see each other. Tomorrow we'll be finishing the Shiur a couple of minutes early. And we're going to be having Charlotte. It would be nice if we could get around somebody to deliver it to everybody. Right?
I think Yehuda should do it. Where's Yehuda?
It's nice to offer on his behalf. I'm not sure if he'll be so thrilled.
David's Deli not open.
David's Deli's open with social distancing.
So get someone to pick it all up and we'll do it.
Yeah,
How
cool.
are you
Ben,
going
are
to
you
drop it off?
volunteering
Because
to
I'm
queue
making
for half
it
an hour?
We could drive around.
Ben, on your bike. On your bike,
My
Ben.
bike.
We've got quite a long dafim, so I'm going to start straight away. There's a lot of different things. Is everybody okay?
I'm searching for a number. I can't find.
Right. We're up to daf Mundalef or Mundalef.
Can everyone mute?
We're up to the Mundalef or Mundalef, about 6-7 lines from the bottom. The Mishnah is describing different animals and different equipment that animals have and what you're allowed to and not allowed to have on the animal on Shabbos. So now the Mishnah says like this. That means, we described it yesterday. You're allowed to take the lead of 5 different camels and put them in your hand. But you're not allowed to tie 5 camels one to the next and then just hold the lead of the front one. And the question is, what is the difference? Why am I allowed to hold 5 leads, but not to hold the lead of one of them, which is tied to the one behind, etc.? The Lord says, it looks like you're going to the market. When you're holding the lead of 5 different camels, that's okay. If they're all tied one to the next, and you hold the front one and they're all trailing behind you, it looks like you're going to the marketplace and it's reserved for Shabbos. Mishnah says you're allowed to hold the lead, but you're not allowed to wrap the lead around your hand. Just very briefly, you all can picture a lead in your mind. You've got a long rope, it's tied to the neck of the camel, and usually you don't hold it tight. Rather, it slopes down to almost to the floor, but not literally to the floor. Then it gets into your hand, and there's usually a little bit after your hand. Is that right? That's how you hold. That is how a person usually, when he carries a lead, does it. I'll show a picture. Right. Here's a picture. See, you've got the lead going down, a bit past the hand, a bit in the hand, and a bit around the neck. That's just, the more describes great detail the different parts of the lead. So I just want to make sure that it's clear. You've got a bit in your hand, a bit below your hand, a bit going down from your hand all the way down, back up to the animal's neck. So the Mishnah says you're not allowed to wrap the lead around your hand. Now, why not? The reason why it's forbidden to wrap the lead around your hand is because of kilayim. It says, well, kilayim demai. Which kilayim are we discussing here? That means there's a special halacha. You're not allowed to have two animals leading you together. If you've got a horse and a cow, it is considered kilayim. There's a very famous story in The Light from the West, a beautiful book. It describes that Nosson Adler was once traveling with a Chasm Sofer. We mentioned a couple of days ago, and what happened was there were two horses, and one of the horses broke a leg, and the wagon driver went and bought a cow, and Nosson Adler walked behind the wagon dancing. And Chasm Sofer said to him, what are you so happy about? And he said, how often do we get a chance not to travel with kilayim? You're not allowed to have two animals. So the Gemara, this having been understood, that if you wrap the lead around your hand, so between you and the camel, you're pulling the load. And therefore it's kilayim. It's a human being and an animal, that's kilayim. Says the Gemara, but that's not true. Why? But a human being is not kilayim. A human being pulling a load with an animal, that's not kilayim. The kilayim is like this. If you got 5 camels, one of them has got a linen thread, a linen rope, and the other one's got a woolen rope, and you tie the ropes around your hand, what are you doing? You're wearing kilayim on your hands. If you just do one stitch, one sewing is not a chibur. That means if you take kilayim and you just do once over, that is not kilayim. Kilayim is only when it's sewed. This is not called sewed. So it shows a picture over here. Just see if I can find the picture here. If you've got wool and linen over here, and you put a thread through the two together, that doesn't make it kilayim. For something to be kilayim, they have to be sewn together. So if you take a few straps of a camel, and one of them is wool and one's linen, that's not going to be kilayim. So the Gemara says, as long as you don't make out of it a whole beautiful sewing apparatus, then it's forbidden. Like it shows you in this picture. Here he's got a few ends of ropes, and what he does is he makes, if you look at the picture, he makes out of it like a netting, and some of the ropes are linen, some are wool. That is kilayim, and that is forbidden. As long as the rope, the lead, doesn't go down below the hand a tefach, because if it goes down a tefach, then it looks like you're carrying. If you think about it, you're walking with a lead of a camel or a donkey. If there's a tefach dangling from your hand, somebody look at it, what does he think to himself? You're carrying a piece of rope. That as long as it's not dangling 2 tefach, meaning, min hadin is only forbidden if it's dangling 2 tefach, because 2 tefach looks like you're carrying something. The Shmuel came along and told us that if a person has a 1 tefach, you should forbid him. Because once there's 1 tefach, it is likely that it will come to be 2 tefach, and therefore it's forbidden. So therefore the halacha is you mustn't have a tefach coming out of the hand after you hold the rope, because if you do that, it looks like you're carrying a piece of rope. Top of the Daladon base. As long as it has to be a tefach higher than the floor. And some more kitanahi bechavlo de beini. The bit that goes down onto the floor must go down the tefach. So if you look at the previous picture, I don't want to put the pictures in different places, but if you look at this picture over here, if you can, you've got the rope at the end mustn't be a tefach, because if it looks like more than tefach, it's no good. And when it goes down to the floor, it must be more than a tefach above the floor. Because if there's less than a tefach, it looks like you're carrying. So if you're ever leading a donkey or a camel on Shabbos, you must make sure two things. One is that the rope, after you finish holding it, doesn't have a tefach after. When you hold the rope, you don't hold it to the very last edge. There mustn't be a tefach coming out. And there mustn't go the dip of the rope. When you hold the rope, the dip of the rope mustn't get within a tefach from the floor. Says the Mishnah, a donkey is not allowed to go out with the saddle cloth, if it's not tied. And not with a bell, even if the bell is blocked up. You must put a ladder on the neck of the donkey, and not with a strap around his foot. All these things, the reason is they are precious items, and we're scared that if you do it, it might fall off, and if it falls off, you will then come to carry. Yeah, can you see a donkey's got a ladder on his neck? That is forbidden. Here's a bell. If you look very closely, the bell is blocked up. It's also forbidden. And these two are also forbidden. Because the bandages and all these things, they may fall off, and if they fall off, you'll come to carry them. So that's forbidden. Not allowed to go with strings, and not to strap on their legs either. Not allowed to let a goat walk with a wagon behind its tail. The Gemara explained that the tail of a male sheep is very fat, and it can get easily knocked around. So they would make the sheep have a wagon behind them, where their tail would then sit in the wagon when they walked around. The Gemara will describe exactly what that means. And the Gemara will describe that as well. A cow mustn't walk around with a hedgehog skin over its udder. The farmer would be worried that wild animals would come and nurse from the cow, and he would lose all his milk. So what did he put over the udder? A hedgehog skin, which is particularly prickly. That way, nobody would ever come to drink milk from his cow. That is forbidden on Shabbos. And not with a string up around its neck, around its horns. It did once go out with a strap between its horns. Chachamim were upset. I just have to tell you, there's a sefer called Chai Olam by the Steinberg. If you ever get a chance to learn it, it's the most beautiful, beautiful sefer. And towards the end of Chelek Aleph, it says, you want to know how great the Tanoim and the Morim were, I'll tell you. One of the things he mentions is this Mishnah. Mishnah says that Rabbi Isaiah had a neighbor. The Gemara explains he had a neighbor that once went out of the house, and the cow had a strap between its horns, which according to Rabbi Isaiah is permitted, because Rabbi Isaiah holds that it is permitted, is considered a garment. The Chachamim held it's forbidden. Now Rabbi Isaiah should have stopped his neighbor, because Yochid v'Ravi Malachah Karavi. But he did not stop the neighbor. Since he did not stop the neighbor, they were upset with him. How could you allow such a thing? The Gemara Yerushalmi says, the Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, when he realized he had done this avera of not stopping his neighbor from walking around, from the neighbor's cow walking around with a strap between his horns, he fasted for so many years that all his teeth turned black. He says, you see over here that these tiny, tiny mistakes that they made, how much they made an effort to do tshuva. Okay, this is Sefer Chai Olam towards the end of Chelek Aleph. Mentioned it very briefly. So, my Tama, why is a donkey not allowed to go with a saddle on its back if it's not tied? Because the Omonak we explained, which is that since it's not tied, obviously it's not used to walking around the saddle cloth, so therefore it's not considered a garment, and therefore it's considered a burden. Not with a bell, because it looks like you're going to the marketplace. A bell looks like you're going to sell it, so therefore it's forbidden. Not with a ladder on the neck. It's like a kind of brace. It's a kind of metal frame to keep what's the purpose of it? The maya of dulay. If it's got a wound, it shouldn't scratch itself. If the donkey has a big wound, let's say on its shoulder, and you don't want the donkey to turn its head and bite its wound or lick its wound and make it infected, so you put a ladder and you attach the neck of the donkey to a ladder, and that way it can't turn around, and that is forbidden because it's a burden. Says the mod of the gizru. If they did it, that it shouldn't injure itself. What they would do is they would put for an injury, they would put a bandage around, and that's forbidden because that's also considered a burden.
But didn't we say, brother, was it the sheep that you're allowed to, for the protection of the animal itself, you're allowed to put something there?
Yes. I mean,
So
certain things were considered, I should say better, certain things were commonly left, and if they came off, a person would ignore. Certain things were more precious. A bandage or a ladder was more precious, and the person would be more concerned about picking it up if it fell off. It's a difference a little bit between a plaster and a bandage, where a person might, if a plaster falls off, not bother pick it up. A proper bandage, a person might decide to pick it up. Chickens are not allowed to go out with a string. Why would the person tie a string around his chicken? They would tie a string around the chicken leg, and each person would tie a different color. And that way, if I would see a chicken with a red thread, I would know it's mine. If it's a yellow thread, I would know it's yours. So that's the purpose of these
Is
threads.
that like they do with is that like what they do with sheep nowadays with painting their wool a bit?
That's right. Yeah. A slap of paint. Not with a strap. That they would put a strap around the chicken's legs, that they shouldn't go around breaking things. So that also was something which was precious, and people would pick them up if they fell, and therefore it's forbidden. They mustn't go out with a wagon. Now, why would a sheep go with a wagon? In order that the tail shouldn't get bruised and battered. So they would go out with a wagon. It's got a picture of it over here. It's a very small picture. If you can see it, it's a little picture. You've got the sheep. If you look behind the tail, there's a little wagon to put the tail in to help a person that the tail shouldn't get ruined. What is chanunos? Yosef of Achad Ba'ula K'meda of Chista. He was sitting in front of Chista. Yosef Kama. The Shosh goes in Oisa. When they would shear the sheep, then the sheep would get cold, right? After it's lost its hair, its wool, the sheep would get cold. So turning in a ezek b'shem, and they would put a piece of cloth, a compress in oil, and they would put it on its forehead, and this is what the Mishnah means when it says chanunos. It means you mustn't go with a sheep which has got a compress over its forehead because of the coat. If they would make so much effort for a sheep, asiso ma'ukva. Ma'ukva was the reish gelusa. The reish gelusa was a very important position, the head of Klal in Golus, and he was usually treated with tremendous amount of respect. Nobody treats his sheep with the same amount of respect as you would a ma'ukva. And the Gemara says it's not likely that people would put a compress on the sheep's head to avoid it from getting cold. And the Yosef Apapa Ba'ashmur Kamedo of Chista Yosef Vikama, B'shosh Kuras David when it's giving birth, and you take two compresses of oil, umanichin lo echad al padachta, one on his forehead, ve'echad al avechem, one on his womb, kadesh techames his chamim, in order they should be able to give birth. So chanunus means these compresses which would help them give birth. Yalta. Yalta was the name of Nachman's wife, and she was a very important lady. And surely you're not going to treat your sheep like you would treat an important lady. And therefore, it's not likely that you put compresses on your sheep just to protect them when they're giving birth. There's a little wood in the towns overseas, you'd bring a splinter, you'd stick it up its nose, in order that the sheep should sneeze, and all the worms would come out. They would force the sheep to sneeze in order to make the worms come out of its head. And that is forbidden to do on Shabbos. Says, why does the Mishnah say only female sheep? Male sheep as well need to get rid of the worms in the nose. As well, since they butt each other in their heads and they're constantly fighting, so therefore, there's worms fall out of the heads. Only female sheep, you need to make them sneeze to make the worms fall out of the heads. It says, well, another pshat, Shimon is Zilma Kisma Devism. It's a splinter made out of a roisum tree, and the reason was in order to help it sneeze. So that's why it's called chanunois, because the wood was called chonin. So therefore the word chanunois comes to the word chonin. According to all the other pshatim that we had, that you did an oil compress or whatever it may be, why does the Mishnah call it chanunois? As the word of dinalu milsa de merachmin alayu, you do something which gives it rachmanas, and therefore it's called chanunois from the expression of to favor the sheep, to be kind to the sheep. And a calf is not allowed to go with a gimun. My egel be gimun. A small wagon. This small wagon, which you would put on the calf, would train the calf to bend its head and pull a yoke. That means it wasn't strong enough to pull a heavy yoke, but you wanted to get it into training to get used to the idea that it must be submissive and to carry a wagon. So already from its young age, you would give it a small wagon. Says the Gemara, how do they mean the expression of bent? It's actually a pasuk we say in the Haftarah Yom Kippur, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Klal Yisrael that their tshuva and the fasting days are not important to him. Hashem doesn't accept them. And the pasuk says, why not? Because Hashem is not interested that people should just bend their heads like a fish hook in a false, superficial, exterior expression of remorse. He wants people to actually do proper tshuva. So we see the word agamoy means something bent. So when the Mishnah says gimoy, it's referring to a small wagon which would train the calf to bend its head. The cow mustn't go with the skin of a hedgehog. In order that wild animals shouldn't come to suckle from the mother cow, they would put a cover of hedgehog skin over the others. Whether it's for beauty or whether it's for guarding, either way it's forbidden. Either shmur lenoi also, if it's for beauty it's forbidden, l'shameh mutter, but to guard the cow it is mutter. But also Shabbos ben Azariah says the Gemara v'chod parah. To Shabbos ben Azariah have only one cow. V'omarav, omilom av Yehuda marav, Shveisei alfei egli have a ma'aser of Shabbos ben Azariah me'edrei called shato v'shato. Every year he would give 12,000 cows for ma'aser. How much is ma'aser? What percentage? How much is ma'aser? 10%. So if every year you gave 12,000, how many, you only give ma'aser from the newborns. So how many newborns did he have every year? 120,000 cattle were born to him every year. He must have had a few, maybe perhaps a million. If you think to have a newborn of 120,000 a year, you've got to have mothers and fathers and all the rest. And so how could you say that he had a cow that left? He must have had much more than one cow. So the Gemara says, it was his neighbor, a female neighbor. I saw one of the first pointing out, Shchinose means a female neighbor. Since he didn't tell her off, therefore it's considered as if he was the one. And again, it's what I pointed out from the start, he had the Yerushalmi that he fasted. Even without the Yerushalmi, he had hundreds of thousands of cattle. He had a female neighbor that went one cow with a strap on his head, and because of that, he's severely rebuked because it showed a lack of cover to the Chacham. There's a very, very famous Tosfos here, which comes up in a number of places in Shas, a technical Tosfos. The Tosfos asked the Kasha, the Abelazar ben Azariah was merely 13 or 14 years old when the Churban Beis Hamikdash happened. If he was so young, how could it be that he would give 12,000 cattle every year for Ma'aser Behema? He surely did not yet have his own estate, and he certainly wasn't chayav in Ma'aser Behema. This is a very big question, the second to bottom Tosfos, and this Tosfos comes up in a number of places in Shas. It's to do with history a little bit, how it was when Isaiah. Tosfos gives three answers. One answer is it doesn't mean Ma'aser Behema, it means Ma'aser taxes. In those days, taxes were 10%, so he gave 12,000 cattle to the king for taxes. Another answer Tosfos says is that he had a apotropos, what's that? Administrator when he was a little boy before he was bar mitzvah, and the administrator on his behalf would give ma'aser behema when the Beis Mikdash was still standing. When he was, let's say, 10 years old, the Churban Beis Mikdash happened when he was 14, 15. So when he was 10 years old, his administrator gave ma'aser behema on his cattle. The third answer to this tells us is that they did not stop bringing ma'aser behema just because the Beis Mikdash got destroyed. They carried on the ma'aser behema. This brings up a lot of ramifications. There's a very famous Netziv who says that he even carried on bringing Korban Pesach. And I once saw a book of history, a very detailed book, that claims that he even found proof to this Netziv, that they carried on bringing Korban Pesach even after the Churban. But this Tosafos says they carried on bringing ma'aser behema after the Churban. So there are three answers. How could the Rosh Hashanah give ma'aser of 12,000 cattle? Either he gave it as taxes to the king, which means nothing to the Beis Mikdash, or his administrator did it before when he was a little child, or they carried on giving ma'aser behema when after the Churban. But how old was Rosh Hashanah when the Churban when the Beis Mikdash got destroyed? The second Beis Mikdash got destroyed. He was only 14 or 15 years old. You can see Tosafos for more details. Says the Gemara. Now, for the rest of the Perek, it's quite long. It's all Agadata, and it's a lot of Musa Haskel. The Gemara says like this: Vav, Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yochanan, Vav Chaviva, Maslu Bekula de Seder Moed. They would learn together the whole Seder Moed. Kol Ki'ai Zuga. Whenever we have these groups together, Chirufa Rabbi Yochanan, some people would swap the name Rabbi Yochanan and Mal Rabbi Yonasan. And whenever we mention these names, some people would insert Rabbi Yonasan instead of Rabbi Yochanan. And he says like this: anybody can tell off his family. And he doesn't. He'll get punished for his entire family's others. The Anshe Iroi, he can tell off his town people, and he doesn't. He'll get punished for the whole town. If a person can tell off the whole world and he doesn't, he gets punished for the entire world. It's actually the Hashgacha Pratis. This week's parsha tells us the mitzvah. Just a very short word. I think it was B'Shem the Chidush Yomi. He says like this: the Chazal Dashan afilu me'er pamim, even 100 times. And we see the importance of Muslim. Gemara says if a person can tell off the whole world and he doesn't, he gets punished for the entire world. So he asks the Kasha, how can you tell off 100 times? The Gemara also says that when somebody gets irritated with you, you have to stop. Now imagine you go up to somebody and say to him 100 times something, he'll surely get irritated long before you get to 100. So how to reconcile these two Gemaras? And he said that you're not supposed to say over the same thing 100 times. Rather, what you're supposed to do is, you're supposed to divide the issue into 100 different steps, and every time point out one extra level that the person can do in a way that through 100 different teichachos, you get the message across. Teichacha doesn't always actually mean telling off. Teichacha, Eliezer, the servant of Avraham Avinu, when he was davening for Rivka, he said, this is the one that you have demonstrated, that this is the right wife. If the girl gives me water and gives my camels, that's the one you've proven. Echachta means to prove, to demonstrate. A person many times can demonstrate much better by saying nothing and behaving well than he can with all the words. But it's an interesting word with 100 times, is you have to make it in 100 ways to get a message across. Omar Papa Vani de Beirish Gulusa, the people of the Gulusa, they get punished for the entire world. What does it say in the Pasuk? Hashem Mishpat Yobim Zikni Amri V'Sov. Hashem will judge the elders and the ministers. Im Sov Chotu, top of the Heim and Aleph. Zakinim Machotu. Zakinim always refers to Bidei Chachamim. What they done wrong? And they Zakinim Shleim Yichu B'Sorim. That they did not tell off the sign, and since they did not, they get punished. Rav Yehuda Yosef Kamei Deshmor. A woman came in. She started crying that she felt that this had been harshly done in by justice. So Shmuel ignored her. Yehuda said to Shmuel, do not hold. He was his Rebbe. Somebody who blocks his ear from the cry of a poor man. When he davens, Hashem doesn't answer him either. If you don't listen to other people's cry, why should Hashem listen to your cry? Amalei Shinano, you sharp one. Reishach, your leader, Bekrivi, is in cold water, meaning I am safe. Reishach to Reishach, Bechamimi, the head of your head, meaning the one who's in charge of me, he's in hot water. Hot water is an expression of trouble. Meaning, I'm not in charge here. Who's in charge? Ma'ukva is in charge. Since Ma'ukva is in charge, therefore it's his responsibility, not mine. Judge in the morning, because of the bad deeds. The one who gets judged is always the leader. And since I am not the leader, it's not my responsibility. I had a memory that there's a Tosfos in Bava Basra that talks about this Gemara. And I looked in the article in the Sifta, nobody mentions it. Eventually I found the Tosfos. But after I found the Tosfos, I noticed that Kiva on the side tells us, if you look in the Gilin Hashas, I didn't need to look it up. He brings it just 2 words. There's a very, very interesting Tosfos, a frightening Tosfos of Bava Basra, Yomi base. He says that the Gemara tells us that one of the Amoraim was Nifta, and it was almost Nifta. And his father said to him, when you were dying, what did you see? So what did he answer him? What did I see? Anybody remember the famous Gemara? I saw an upside down world. When I got to Shemaim, the world looked upside down. So the Tosfos says that he has a Kabbalah, a Messiah from his Rebbe, all the way back to Rav Ashi. Can you imagine? A tradition that what did he mean when he saw the world upside down? He saw that Rav Yehuda, the Talmud of Shmuel, was sitting in front, and his Rebbe Shmuel was sitting behind. That means they were swapped around positions, and that's why he said Olam Hafuch. And why did Shmuel deserve that terrible punishment that he sat lower than his Talmud of Yehuda? Because of this one incident, that once a woman complained, and he did not take any notice, he ignored her. It's a very frightening Tosfos. So the Maisa, he had a justification that he ignored her because he said, I'm not the leader. But nevertheless, it was a certain cold-heartedness. And because of that, he lost the position of being more in teaching in Shemaim, and instead, his Talmud of Yehuda taught him instead. I remember I once heard this Gemara from a Mendel Weinbach. He read it out very slowly. I remember reading and hearing it. It left an impression on me. You should tell off the head of the Reish Gelusa. You should tell them off. Never going to listen to me anyway. Even they don't listen, you have to tell them off. Whenever Hashem promises a good thing, Hashem never retracts. I mean, sometimes Hashem will promise a bad thing, and then Hashem retracts. When do we know that happened? Nineveh. Hashem says, good, turn over, and Hashem saved it. But when Hashem promises a good thing, Hashem never takes it back. Because once He's promised a good thing, He never takes back. Except for once in history, that Hashem promised something good, and He took it back. And what was that? Dichsiv. Vayomer Hashem, the Gemara is now going to darshan a number of psukim in Yecheskel, which are all joined up in Yecheskel. The Gemara brings different psukim and explains each one individually. Vayomer Hashem Elov. Hashem said this to him, this is the malach of destruction. Avoy b'seicha go through the city of Yerushalayim, b'seicha Yerushalayim, v'saviso tov, and you should write the letter tov, the last letter of the Aleph base. The Gemara later will explain why that letter. And mitzches ha'anoshim, on the foreheads of the people, and the enochim and neokim, the ones who cry and sigh, enochim al-kol ha'tevis ha'nasis b'seicha. Now that's the end of the pasuk. And the Gemara explains, Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu legavir, leich v'ushim ha'mitzchot shel tzadikim, write on the forehead of tzadikim, tov shod yoy. With ink, write the letter tov on all the foreheads of tzadikim. Why? Shleishletu b'hem malchi chabolah, that they should not get killed by the wicked, by the malchi chabolah, by the malachim of destruction. V'al-mitzchom shel v'ushim, on the forehead of the v'ushim, tov shod dam. You should write the letter tov of blood, in order that they should be killed. That means Hashem told Gabriel, go through Yerushalayim, and with ink write the letter Tov on all the tzaddikim, and with blood write the letter Tov on all the Rishonim. And the Gemara continues. Why did the tzaddikim need the protection? Why did
So why does tzaddikim need a protection if automatically, if they need it means that by default that you get destructed by the Malach HaMoed unless you have.
Shaw asks your question that you don't need, if you want to destroy somebody and save others, or you want to save others and destroy others, you don't need to make a mark on both groups. What you need to do is just make a mark on one group, and then automatically anybody who does not have the mark will Mimela not be included. And the Marashah answers, because Malachi Chabolo, when it comes to a time of destruction, they sometimes destroy others that don't deserve to be destroyed. So if you need the extra protection of the Tov. So he said like this, HaKadosh told Gabriel, put these marks on everybody in Tzadikim and Rishonim, those that should live and those should die. Why are some going to die and some going to live? Some of the people are tzaddikim, they will live, and some are shoyim. The tzaddikim should have said to the rishoyim that you're doing wrong, and they didn't. So they also deserve to be punished. I know for definite. Had they told them off, the rishoyim would not have listened at all. So therefore, they did nothing wrong by not telling them off. So Vidas didn't say it. They didn't know that telling off will make any effect. They didn't know that. Since they did not know that, they should have said something. You should kill, for the mashchis should kill. Anybody who's got the letter tov, do not harm. That was original plan. The original plan was that all those who are tzaddikim and have the letter tov written in ink shall live. And the pasuk then says, those who are kadosh, you shall kill them first. And they started with the zakenim. Zakenim is referring to Sanhedrin. This is the only time in history when HaKadosh promised something good and he changed it to something bad. He promised that all tzaddikim shall live, and they decided on the contrary that tzaddikim should be killed first. Or they kept all the mitzvahs, they did nothing wrong, but they should have told off. Or telling off wouldn't have made the slightest difference, but they never knew that. Since they never knew that, therefore they deserved. Those who are holy. Kodesh. They kept every part of the Torah from Aleph to Tov, and they were killed first. Immediately, 6 malachim came, dressed as men, from the upper gate, which turned north. Each had his weapon in his hand. One of them was wearing linen cloth. And he had a ink of a sofa in his loins. And he stood by the Mizbeach HaNechoshes. What happened was in the Mishkan there was a copper Mizbeach outside and a golden Mizbeach inside. When Shlomo Melech built the Beis HaMikdash, the Mizbeach HaNechoshes was not big enough, so he replaced it with the Mizbeach Abonim, with a stone one. So where was the Mizbeach HaNechoshes? Amalu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you should start the killing from the place they sing Shiur. The Levim used to sing Shiur with copper musical instruments, and that's the place where they were killed first. Who are these 6 people? Ketzef, Af, Vechemo, Umashchis, Umashpe, Umechale. Ketzef is fury, Af is anger, Chemo is wrath, Umashchis is a destroyer, Umeshabe is those who break people, Umechale, and those who annihilate people. That means Hashem sent these 6 angels of destruction to kill out all the tzaddikim because of the fact they couldn't protested. Why the letter Tov? Noah gives a few answers. Amarav, Tov, Tichya, Tov, Tomus. The Tov can mean to live, and the Tov can mean to die. Those that live got a Tov to live, and those that got a Tov to die got a Tov to Tomus. V'shmon Omar, Tammuz chus avos, no longer would the chus of Avos and Yaakov last. Rabbi Yechon Omar, Tochun chus avos, that the chus avos will favor them till now, but no longer. Rish Lakish Omar, Tov, Seif chasam shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem's signature is emes. So the letter Tov is the end of the signature. When you want to sign something, a signature is not valid until the last part of the signature is being written. So the Tov is the end of the signature of Hashem. A Tov is to represent the fact they kept the Torah from Aleph Tov. So this Gemara, as I mentioned before, I once heard it being read very slowly. And it's a very, very powerful Gemara about the tremendous chiyuv responsibility that a person has. That here we have tzaddikim that kept the mitzvahs me'alef atov, and nevertheless, they were the ones that were killed first. And even though the protest would have made not the slightest difference, the fact is that that they did not know the protest would make no difference. I mean, when the Weinbach was very, very big into kiruv, and therefore he used this Gemara as a launching point to say that those who don't work in kiruv are very, very lacking. But regardless, it doesn't necessarily mean kiruv. A person, through his behavior, demonstrates a very lot how a person should be. And a person has a responsibility that his behavior should make people behave better. Many times telling off has the opposite effect. A person has to use chachma to know what works. The Gemara says, when did this chus avos finish? Now, there's a very interesting tesis over here, second to bottom tesis, which is actually also quoted quite a lot. As the Gemara over here brings a list of dates when chus avos were finished. That means when Christ started so many averos that no longer did the chus of Yitzchak and Yaakov help us anymore. Tesis brings a machlokes rishonim. If that is the case, why in the world do we daven so often in the schus of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? What's in the world? What's the point? If the schus obvious is finished, so what's the point? So, Teres has got two ma'alchim. That when Hashem had schus, there were two things that happened with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. One was schus obvious, and one was bris obvious. So chus obvious means that the mitzvahs that the obvious did last till for further generations. This obvious is the promise that Hashem gave of Yitzchak and Yaakov. Even if chus obvious is finished, but bris obvious is not finished. So when we daven to Hashem, we're davening for the bris, not for the chus, because the chus obvious. Let me just read that. Let's read it inside a little bit. The second to bottom text. Sholom ha'tamas chus obvious, v'ichnam ha'tochas chus obvious. Omer Rabbeinu tam. Chus obvious tamo. Aber bris obvious loy tamo. Do ksiv zchartes bris Yaakov af lachar golus. Well, in the tesis, if you read it, if you miss out a few lines, the loy pligi. And the shmo kabad the shoyim tam tzadikim loy tamo, or tzadikim ayri. Tesis got another malach that chus obvious is finished for tzadik for rishoyim, but no longer for tzadikim. The Vedesla came to Gateshead. He came to Podlish after he left Gateshead. He sent over a shtickle Torah, which was like his introduction to Podlish. You know, Vedesla for many years was Mashgiach in Gateshead. It was Mashgiach in Gateshead. Eventually became Mashgiach in Podlish. He sent over this shtickle Torah and made a very big impression. So what's going on over here? He said like this. It's Mechtam Leochelek Aleph, if you want to see it inside. Very, very briefly. If a person comes into court, having been caught in the crime, the judge, if he's a sensible judge, will inquire what kind of boy is he. If he's somebody that if he sends him back home, his parents will shout at him and educate him properly and etc., then he'll say to himself, it doesn't matter, I don't need to punish him. He'll learn from his parents how to behave. If he knows that his parents are into bigger crime, he has no choice but to try and take over the education of the boy himself, send him to prison, fine him, community service, whatever it may be. He says, chus avos is not without logic. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov was so great that their behavior teaches us how to behave. And therefore, their chus gives us, why should we get off if we do an aveira and they're going not? Just because it's chus avos, what logic is it? The answer is, we have watched Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov behaving, and we watched our fathers behaving, and all the doers in between, and therefore, even when we've done an aveira, we're more likely to do tshuva because of chus avos. You used to say the word chus avos comes from the word zakus avos, the purity of the fathers. The purity of the fathers goes through to the children. Even when chus avos, so now he brings this machlokes and tesis, is chus avos finished and all we've got is bris avos, meaning that we have done so much bad. If a child is really, really bad, then no longer can the judge say, well, it doesn't matter, he'll be influenced by his parents. You can see he's not being influenced by the parents, therefore could be Schus Obis is finished. But all that we have is Bris Obis. Hashem promised Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov to look after us, so he looks after us as well. Alternatively, he says for tzaddikim, Schus Obis still exists. Because a tzaddik shows that he's still connected to that good behavior of the Obis. So the Schus Obis is still connecting to him. Rosh's Schus Obis is finished. I'm going very briefly into quite deep ideas. It's a very fascinating case is that Schus Obis is finished, but Bris Obis is not, or that Schus Obis is finished for Rishonim, but not for tzaddikim. So now the more brings a list of opinions when exactly Schus Obis is finished. Meimosai Tamos Schus Obis. Omar Rav Moshe Shabbat Be'evi. Shenema Agales Navlus Leine Ma'aveo. Ve'ish lo yatzileno miyoti. Nobody can save me. Nobody can save Klal Yisrael from Hashem. Meaning that the Obis, their power is gone. They no longer have a schus, a right to save Klal Yisrael. V'shmon Omar Mimei Chazol. Shnema v'Chazol Melech Harom lo chatzisol kol meyachos. V'ksiv v'yachol in Hashem oisom v'yivachim. V'yachmei. V'yifen aleim ma'adviso es Avram es Yitzchak v'Yaakov. Hashem did not destroy Klal Yisrael because of his Yaakov. Until now, that when Chazor, the king of Avam, oppressed Klal Yisrael, the Apostle says that till now Hashem said, "I'm going to save you." Mashma only till now, but no longer. From the days of Eliyahu, today it shall be known. And today, with your words. That means today it should be known that the schus of Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov shall still stand them, but not after today. To support it by mishpat of tzedakah. The zealousness of Hashem shall do it, meaning that till now Hashem had rachmanas, but from now on, kinas Hashem ta'asazois, that the zealousness of Hashem shall do it. So therefore, you've got different shittas as to when exactly Schus Obis is finished. But as we said, for a tzaddik, Schus Obis still remains, and even if there's no Schus Obis, there's still Bris Obis, the promise he gave to the fathers. Nobody dies without sin, and nobody suffers unless he has naveir. Ben lo yisabavin av, v'avin lo yisabavin ben. Tzidkas hasadik olav tia, vishas osha olav tia. The pasuk says clearly that a person who dies because of naveir, and a child who doesn't die because of the sin of the father. The father won't die because of the sin of the son, but each person suffers for his own aveiros. I'll hit them with a stick for the aveiros, when they go in with the punishments, avoid them for the aveiros. So we see that aveiros cause suffering. Top of nun heil base. Meisvei. Omu malachi ashor is tifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ribono shel olam, mipnei ma konsa misa, knasta misa al Adam Rishon. Why did Adam Rishon deserve to die? Omar lehem mitzvah kalot tzivisiv, I taught him, commanded him an easy mitzvah, v'omar lehem. And he went against it. Omu loy. Malach said to Hashem, Alei Moshe v'Aaron shekimu kol ha'Torah kulo meisu. Moshe and Aaron kept the entire Torah, and they died. How can they die? So he said, that even tzaddikim die, even though they've never done any averos. What do we see from this price? That it's possible to die possible for a person to be nifter without doing any averos. Not like Shmuel who said, not like of Ami who said that only a person only dies because of averos. And it says, there's another price that says differently, the Tanya. They also died because of the Naveah. Because you did not believe in me. If you believed in me, you wouldn't have died. So he holds, no, you're wrong to say that Moshe and Binu and Aaron never did Averos. They also did Averos. So we've got Machlekes Tanoim with Moshe and Aaron did Averos.
Hamelech had a few relatives who did
very good,
Averos,
very good. The Gemara will discuss it right now. But Melech had relatives never did Averos. And then Chaim Kafan once saying that he saw a sefer, I don't know which sefer it was, that the time of the Ravizah, there was a big tzaddik called Moshe Cordovero. Does anybody know Which sefer he wrote? Which Kodever? He wrote the Torah Devorah. And when he was nifter, the Arizal was very, very upset. And he said, okay, that the Pasuk in Pashki said that if you find a person, the word chet means sometimes missing. Missing can also mean the word chet. Chet mishpat moves. If you see somebody who dies, but he's missing a reason to die. There's no reason for him to die. He never did anything wrong. The solisa oisa al eitz. You should hang it on the tree. The eitz hadas, the Adam Rishon ate, caused it that this person should die, but really he didn't deserve to die. And a pillar of fire came and surrounded the bed of a Moshe Kodever, and nobody could come near. That's what Hanukkah once told us the story. So the Ma'is, the Gemara says, a machlokes of Rishon and did any averos and why they died. Meisvik, Albo Meisu Be'etu Shanochosh. 4 people died because of the snake, meaning they didn't do a single aveil. You look at the top tasers, very, very short tasers. Tasers ask the kasha, Meisu Be'etu Shanochosh, well, the chsiv, Adam ein tzaddik bo'etz v'geima. He says there's no such thing as a tzaddik in the world. But wherever the Adam come, most people, but some people, Taka, managed to go through life without doing any aveils. So who are the 4 people that never did any aveils? Elohim. Binyamin ben Yaakov, Binyamin the son of Yaakov, one of the 12 Shvatim. But Amnon Abi Moshe, the father of Moshe Amnon. The Yishai Abi David, Yishai the father of David. The Kilov ben David and Kilov the son of David. Does anybody remember where Kilov comes up elsewhere?
He protected David from his rebel.
Oh,
and that's
very good.
like
Do you remember what the Gemara says? Every time that Melech would pass him, Mephibosheth would embarrass him until eventually Kilov came back and used to answer back. Where's that? Brachas Daf?
Brachas Daf, Daled Heuvov.
Daled, very good. The Kulu Gemara, and it's all a Mesoivus. Leba mi Yishai Avi David, the Mefarish Beikro. The Pasuk says so clearly. Dichsiv. There it's describing a change of generals in the Yiddish army. And what happened was Yomi ben Surah used to be the head of the army, and instead somebody called Amasa took over. Now it's quite a complicated family tree. I wasn't sure if I had the energy to start drawing a diagram of all the people involved. David, Yishai, they're all actually related to each other through different varieties of ways. I didn't. You have to just picture it in your mind. The post is like this: V'samasa, some of Shalom Tachazir Sa'atzava. Amasa was put the head of the army instead of Yoav. V'amasa ben Ish was the son of a man, Ushmo Yisra Yisraeli, who's called Yisra Yisraeli. Ashebol Avigail, who was married to Avigail, Bas Nochosh, whose father was called Nochosh. Achos Tzvuya, she was the sister of Tzvuya, Aim Yoav. If you work it all out, Amasa and Yoav were cousins, who were both sons of 2 sisters. One was called Avigail, and one was called Tzvuya. They were sisters, both born to somebody called Nochosh. Now, who called a snake? Chibas Nochosh Avoy, were they daughters of a snake? But they were Yishai Avoy. They were sons of Yishai. Dichsev Ach Yosei and Tzvuya Avigail. The sisters of David were Tzvuya and Avigail. Elabas Mishameis Be'etu Nochosh, the daughter of the one who died because of the snake. So if you work it out, David's sister was Avigail and Tzvuya. If you ever run out of daughters' names, you can always call her Tzvuya. And she had a son called Yoav ben Tzvuya. Abigail had a son called Amasa. And what happened was, these 2 sisters were sisters of Yishai, of David and his 7 brothers. And therefore, we see over here that the Apostle refers to Yishai as Nochosh because he died because of the snake and no other reason. Now, if you work it all out, we had 3 brises so far referring to people dying. We had one brise that asks, why did Moshe and Aaron die? And Hashem said, even though they were tzaddikim, they died anyway. One brise that says they died, Moshe and Aaron, because they did averos. And a third brise that says that 4 people died, 4 people were nifta without doing any averos. If you take all 3 brises together, we see that with Ami's statement that a person cannot die unless it's done an avera is incorrect. Why? The Gemara works it out. Money. Who is this third brisa? If it's the first brisa, that means this third brisa that says that 4 people died without doing any averos holds like the first brisa that says that the Malach HaShoras were upset that Moshe and Aaron died Moshe and Aaron also never did that according to the first brisa, and yet they were nifta. So why did the brisa say only 4? The brisa should have said 6. It must be of Shimon Elazar that says that Moshe and Aaron did do averos. There is such thing as dying without an avera, and there is such thing as yisur without averos. For tiyuvta of ami to yuvta and sakashan of ami. That means if you work it all out, of ami is not correct. That means like this. That means we've got kashan of Rami. Rami said a person can't die without doing averos. We had one brayta that says Moshe and Aaron died without averos. So what did the Rami say to that? There's another brayta that says yes, they did do averos. But there's a third brayta that says only 4 died without averos. That third brayta doesn't fit in with the first one, because the first one says that Moshe and Aaron also never did averos. So there's not just 4, there's 6. So Elamai, that third brayta must hold of the second brayta that Moshe and Aaron did do averos. And yet the brayta says that 4 people died without averos. So the Gemara says Elamai is a right that it is possible to die without doing an avera. The Gemara from now to the end of the Perek goes through a variety of great people that the Pasuk seems to say that they did terrible averos. And the Gemara now goes at great length to tell us that they never did such terrible averos. In fact, anybody who says about them they did an avera makes a mistake. And again, this is a very deep point. What does that mean? If the Torah tells us clearly they did an avera, how can you say that anybody who says anybody who says Uvi did an avera is making a mistake? The Torah says he did an avera. There are 2 pshatim I'm going to explain. There are others. The very simple pshat is those who say that they did the avera as the Torah describes it in simple pshat is wrong, because there's a deeper that means like this. It's not the Pasuk, for example, says the Ruvain was mezana with his mother Bilah, with his father's wife Bilah. That's a mistake. That never happened. But he did a different avera, a much smaller avera. So anybody who says that Reuven did the bigger avera is making a mistake, because Reuven did a much smaller avera. With Dessler says like this. Imagine you've got somebody like a 2 or 3-year-old child looks at a very, very complicated scientific book, something like say Einstein wrote, and says, wow, this looks complicated. The child is making a mistake because the child has got no idea what he's talking about. Meaning that you're not fathoming what he's talking about. Anybody who says about Reuven I made an avera, he's mistaken in the sense because he doesn't really realize what happened going on. It is true he did an avera, but you are not the one to talk about it. You can't describe what really happened because you don't really know what happened. It's a little bit like if somebody talks about the Second World War and discusses what happened there and his opinion about what people should have done, people should have behaved, etc. Even if you're right, even if the person would be right, he's wrong. Because he's got no idea what he's talking about. They can't possibly fathom what went on there. So the says, if a person says he did an avera, he's mistaken because he's got no idea what's going on. It is true. And now the world goes to different people. Go one at a time. Shenema. So it says the first one is Reuven. It says that anybody who says Reuven did an avera makes a mistake. Shenema also. Immediately after the Pasuk says that Reuven was mezana with Bilah, straight away it says that there were 12 sons. And the fact that the Torah considers Reuven to be one of the 12 Shvatim is a right that Reuven obviously did not do an avera. And a man in Mekayim Yishkav is Bilah Peleg Shaviv. All the Pasuk says he did do snus. That means Yaakov had 4 tents. Each tent had a different wife. He had 4 wives. And he had turns which one he would sleep by that night. Rashi brings an interesting chazal. That how would he know which one to go by every night? Anybody know this medrash? How would he know which one? He would look when he came home and see which one has the shechina there, and that's the tent he would go to. Another pshat is that whichever one he would go to, automatically the shechina would accompany him and go in, and he just had a rota system. Most of the time he would be by Rachel, because that was his original wife. When Rachel was nifta, so then Yaakov decided that who should take over? Bilah, because Bilah was the maidservant of Rachel. Reuven felt that was unfair. That it's bad enough that Rachel always usurped Leah's place. The shifcha of Rachel shouldn't. So he moved his father's bed out of the tent of Bilah and moved it into the room of Leah. And that's all he did. He just moved the bed. So the Pasuk says that Ki'ilu is Mezana, the Pasuk is just referring to a much smaller day of the Pasuk, and that's harshness to describe how bad it is. Like for the Daga of woman speaks like that. The tzaddik never did that Aver. This Aver never happened. When the Kreisel crossed the yard and they stood in Hagrizim and Ha'evol and they made the O on the both, and the man mekav yeshkevas bilo ba'ishlegesh oviv elboin imoitova. The embarrassment of his mother, he claimed. Oh my machois imi oisot sol imi shivchas achois imi teit sol imi. If my mother was always at sol to my mother, if my mother's sister was always at sol, should the shivcha be? Mi omad bilbil is matzo. He mixed up the beds. Achem oimim. Others say shtei matzo is bilbil. 2 beds he mixed up. Achas shel shchino v'achas shel ovi. Banu dechsev os chalti. So olo atiku yitzuya leitzuai. There were 2 beds: the bed of his father and the bed of the shchino. So according to Rashi, either there was a bed of the shchino every night when Yaakov would come home, he would see the shchino, and by moving the beds, he moved around the shchino bed. Alternatively, wherever Yaakov slept, the shchino would be. So therefore, by moving Yaakov's bed, automatically he was also moving the Shechina's bed. This Gemara there continues all the way to the end of the Perek. I'd very much like tomorrow night to finish the Perek, because that way we always have to be one daf ahead, and then on Friday we'll work it out. We'll have to start. The Mitzvah Shem, everybody should make an effort if they can. We're trying to think of a way to set up a system that challenge be delivered to everybody. It's quite complicated. We live in different places, at different times. Instead, we'll finish a few minutes early and eat cholent over Zoom together as a achdus. It's a very, very important thing. Atat tzava, I saw today from the Sons of Rebbe. The word tzava means tzavsat, friendship. That if you want Klal Yisrael to succeed, there has to be a lot of friendship in Klal Yisrael. That's why I touch on tzava. Anybody got anything to say, to share?
Maybe Kegel would be a bit more practical.
No, Yehuda's been voluntold to do the cholent. I'm voluntolding you.
How do you expect somebody to go out to 20 addresses? It's not practical.
Come on, Yehuda. It's not so hard. Come on.
But I think everyone can make a cholent. No one makes cholent really, or a lot of people don't make Thursday night. Kegel is something you can split them up.
David's Deli has.
You know what? Everybody should make whatever they want. If somebody wants cholent, should have cholent. If somebody wants to have kugel, they should have kugel. The main thing is we should try our best to. Maybe Moshe, you can tell us some good Chassidish Shemaises, no?
Maybe.
Yes, come on, Thursday night. I think it's a good time to bring and to. We also have to have a lechaim because it's the end of the period. So it's mamish. Yes.
Yehuda, why are you so quiet? Can you put the cholent on?
He's busy preparing it.
Tomorrow.
Well,
he's on mute. He's trying to talk.
I didn't realize I was on mute. I said, Moshe, you should sponsor it. I'm trying to be Moshe.
I'll sponsor it, but you have to deliver it. Seriously, I don't mind.
I can get David's Deli to do it.
He won't deliver it, will he?
No, I can get him to portion it out and we can,
That's true.
Oh yeah, everyone can collect.
When we get back to shul, we've got to do it.
We can all collect from Shul Car Park. Everyone can collect their challenge from Shul Car Park before share in a foil container. Keep it in the oven and have it at the end.
Yeah.
Seems a lot of effort.
It's always about effort. You have to put the effort in, otherwise you don't get there.
Okay, you can arrange it for Ket. I'm allergic to gluten anyway, so I won't be able to eat that cholent anyway, but I'll get it different. But
we have to continue this minute when we get back to shul. Well, it's not a minute yet, but it will be.
Never know, maybe the lockdown. When's the lockdown finishing?
Soon, we'll be out soon.
Some of these guys don't come Thursday evening, and I don't think they want cholent Thursday morning.
Yeah, I was just about to say, are we going to have cholent at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Before you go to bed.
Even for you, that's a bit much, no?
Definitely. A steak, I don't mind. Cholent.
Oh, come on, please.
I could do a steak at 6 in the morning.
I could do that, no problem.
No problem.
For you, it's before going to bed, Yehuda, so that's why.
You're actually properly gluten-free?
Yeah.
We should have a l'chaim tonight for Yom HaShmutz.
What?
We should have a l'chaim tonight for Yom HaShmutz.
Hey,
yeah.
It's after that. It's too late.
What's tonight?
Baruch Hashem, I missed it.
Oh,
Baruch
seriously?
Hashem,
We
I
had
missed
proper
it.
Israeli
Who said hello today? Yehuda, did you say hello?
No, we had proper Israeli supper. My kids
Is it
made
true
flags.
Boris Johnson had a child?
No.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson had a baby boy. And
That's why he said hello.
He has the same birthday as Israel. What can you ask? You couldn't ask for anything more. You know? Same.
I'm sure he's aware.
Not very more. He's not even married. It's not very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, they're getting married. They're getting married, aren't they?
See, when they announced that she was pregnant, they said the baby was going to be born in the summer. Well, I think we've had that summer. So.
Yeah.
It was a prophecy.
Is that what it was?
So we'll have to, hopefully.
They're calling the baby Corona.
That's what they're calling the baby Corona?
No, it's quarantine.
Quarantina. No, my cousin got engaged. My cousin got engaged.
Who did? Who's the cousin?
Gluck from Golders Green to
Schwalbe. It's a Shalom Schwalbe's daughter.
Oh, very nice.
Which
I don't know who it is. Where do they daven the Glucks? You know,
Monks. He's the cousin of monks.
Oh, yes? Huh?
Yeah.
And Diddy Chrysler had a baby girl.
Who did?
Yeah.
Diddy Chrysler.
Oh, Mazel very nice.
Yeah.
Very good. I don't know, can you stop recording without the only way to stop recording is to stop
the meeting.
Yeah.
You can click on stop recording at the top. Well, whoever I don't know if it's the host or what, but there is someone who should be.
I'm going to try it. Stop